The land explored by our ancestors extends from the Altai to the White Sea. The scientific expedition, Trails of Nomads, continues to unveil the path of our forefathers. A group of scientists led by pilgrim of the 21st century, Sapar Iskakov, has already visited more than 40 countries. Scientists reveal the exciting secrets of the past. Watch an amazing story of a great journey in the Trails of Nomads program. India, with a population of 1,400,000,000 people, cannot be attributed to either the poor or the rich country. Nevertheless, its economy has been developing very rapidly in recent years and is leading in the world in the production of certain types of goods, particularly in the export of electronics. Another important source of replenishment of the treasury is tourism. The share of this sector in GDP is 10%, with annual profit of approximately $200 billion. Most of the foreign guests are attracted by India's ancient historical monuments. Many of these magnificent architectural structures, which amaze tourists, were built by the Kipchak sultans of the Delhi Sultanate. Then, this initiative was continued by the rulers of the Mughal Empire. One of the masterpieces of world architecture, the Taj Mahal Mausoleum, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, appeared during that period. This greatest facility initiated by Mughal Empire's ruler Jahan Shah is an example of the most sophisticated architecture. Builders from Central Asia, including the ancestors of the Kazakhs, took part in its creation. The facility was very similar to the Humayuns Mausoleum, which was also built in the period of the Mughal state. This is India's first mausoleum. All subsequent similar structures were built according to its model. Builders, architects of the mausoleum lived in this building after the death of Humayun. It was the 16th century. Iranians, people from Central Asia, including our Kipchak ancestors, were among the builders. Established in 13th century, friendly relations between the Great Steppe and the Indian subcontinent continued for more than 6 centuries. During the period of the Delhi Sultanate, our ancestors were frequent guests in this state. With the advent of the Mughal Empire, these relations kept developing. In 1504, Muhammad Shaybani conquered Fergana. At that time, the ruler of the state was a descendant of Timur the Lame, Zahir ud-Din Muhammad Babur. After he lost the throne, he was forced to move south. He conquered Kabul, which is now the capital of Afghanistan. Later, having united the efforts of the Turkic and Afghan tribes, he made a trip to India. Thus, its northern and central parts were conquered, and then a part of Afghanistan was annexed to them. The Mughal Empire was formed in 1526.
As far as the relationship with Kipchaks are concerned, I think India is still continuing the relationship. But when Babur is coming from Transoxiana to India, his army is composed of Kipchaks and the Ottoman Turks, and also his army is very good. His army is great. Though when he's coming to India, his army is just 12,000 in numbers. The fighters were probably, they had good military advantages there. So when they are coming to India, Babur's military techniques is very advanced in comparison to Indians.
The first capital of the Mughal Empire was based on the infrastructure of the Delhi Sultanate. This is evidenced by the buildings and structures built by the Kipchak and Mughal rulers. They are in the same city and even one area. The palace of the first Padishah, Muhammad Babur, Qutb Minar, near the Humayuns Mausoleum. It was his residence during 4 years. He was a wise politician with a great leadership experience. In addition, he was a bright literary figure. One example is the encyclopedic work Babur Name. This literary heritage was studied by the great Kazakh poet Akbar. Masterfully written chronicle work tells about the lifestyle of the Kazakh people. Babur left an indelible mark on Indian architecture. Under his leadership, very complicated architectural buildings and structures were built. Nehru Jawaharlal said, during the reign of Babur, India underwent fundamental changes.
Babur, and they continued in the entire Mughal rule. So that's how we find the similarity of Central Asian architecture with the Indian architecture, especially the tiles, the arches, and the tapering minarets, and also the domes that we find in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. The same thing is continued even in India.
Babur died in 1530 and his son Humayun became his successor. He also paid great attention to the development of architecture. This fortress, which in Hindi is called Purana Kila, was built during his reign. The complex was erected in 1533 in an attempt to build a new capital. 5 years later, a completely new city appeared. It became known to the world as the capital of a free country. All artists who came here were welcomed as very honored guests. Humayun aimed to create a cultural and spiritual center. Of course, it took time. In a battle in the Ganga Valley in 1540, Humayun was defeated by a ruler from the Suri dynasty, Sher Shah, and was forced to leave abroad. Under the new ruler, Sher Shah, construction was continued. Right in the center of the fortress, Delhi's first Sher Mandal Observatory and the Qila-e-Khuna Mosque were erected. Subsequently, these buildings became the site of Humayun's death. In 1555, after the Mughal Padishah reascended the throne, he made the Sher Shah Observatory his library. A year later, he died in it. According to some sources, the Mughal Emperor Humayun died in the library above the building. He had a pigeon keeper with birds. Every morning, by tradition, he fed them. Once, after another feeding of his birds, he went downstairs and heard azan, the call of Muslims to prayer. From the side of the mosque, at that moment, he stepped on the hem of his chapan, fell and died. According to another version, Humayun climbed the ladder to get a book from the top shelves, stumbled, fell, and died. Babur was buried in Kabul and Humayun in Delhi. The grave of the latter is in the mausoleum which he built. The distance between the Purana Kila and the Humayun Mausoleum is about 10-minute walk. This is the first garden complex in India. For that time, it was completely new trend in architecture. Later, it became the basis for buildings which were masterpieces of world architecture, such as, for example, the Taj Mahal. The construction of the mausoleum began 6 to 8 years after the death of Humayun and was completed 8 years later. His wife, Banu Begum, was engaged in construction. She gathered the most talented and educated architects and builders. One of the examples is the magnificent Arab Serai, built in 1560-1561. It was inhabited by specialists who prepared the project and built the Humayun Mausoleum. As you can see, there are wonderful halls here. Despite the hot weather, the temperature in them does not change due to advanced ventilation system. It is practically not inferior to modern one. The main secret lies in the thoughtful arrangement of doors and windows. Main architects lived in the left hall. Architects of Kipchak origin were among them. Another historical monument near the Humayun Mausoleum is the Bu Halima's garden. It is known that a woman is buried here. However, very little information was kept about her. Judging by the mausoleum, it was built for a person who was highly respected in his time. According to some sources, Halima is Humayun's milk mother. Since childhood, Humayun was a very intelligent and courageous boy. Until now, the Indian people call him great. Humayun continued the policy of his father. He also expanded the borders of the state, supported and developed art and science. Thanks to him, a code of laws was issued under the name Humayunama.
Ол кезінде көп халық Ферғанадан барғандар.
Then many people came from Fergana, including Kipchaks. Of course, they participated in the construction and management of the state. They were very active in all areas.
Әскер басқаруға барлық жағынан да олар қатысты, алда жүрді.
Another famous person who continued the path of Babur and Humayun is Akbar, the son of Humayun and Banu Begum. He ruled from 1556 to 1605. In his period, the capital of the Mughal Empire was moved to the north of India in the city of Agra. Our ancestors also took part in the development and construction of this city. Another valuable architectural heritage is the Red Fort or Agra Fort. The facility was built by Akbar for military purposes. Now 2/3 of the complex is closed for tourists. So far, the fortress is used as a military object.
И вот там две стены мы видим, вот форта, там невысокая и высокая стена. Невысокая 15 метров, высота 15 метров, и высокая стена.
There are two parallel fortress walls. The height of the first is 15 meters, the second is 25 meters. As known, lions lived between the walls so that enemies could not penetrate the fortress. And outside there is a ditch filled with water full of crocodiles. If someone managed to get through the moat by passing crocodiles, lions were waiting for him behind the very first wall. In addition, there were guards with guns at the fortress. The first guns were brought to India by the Turks.
И вот стена, там есть вот башни такие, да? Это амбразура.
These are the main gates of the Red Fortress, through which the main commander of the fortress was leaving. The leader of the troops enjoyed this privilege because Akbar paid special attention to the development of the army. During his reign, the military power of the Mughal Empire was one of the strongest and most efficient in the region. Exhibits stored in the museum prove this. Inside the Red Fortress, in addition to military facilities, there are a pearl mosque, ceremonial halls, a hotel for the emperor, and the palace of Jahangir. Jahangir is the eldest son of Akbar, the fourth Padash of the Mughal Empire. During the reign of his father, he served as the Emir of Allahabad. In 1602, according to his order, the advisor and personal historian of his father, Abul Fazil, was killed. Akbar was very disappointed, and in 1605, he died. He was buried in Sikandra, 8 kilometers from Agra. Then the power passed to Jahangir. This time is characterized as a vague period of strife. Centralist power weakened. There was an increase in tribal aristocrats. Perhaps if it continued this way, the existence of Mughal Empire would be under threat. However, after the death of Jahangir, the situation changed. The son of Jahangir, Jan Shah, having estimated the failure of the policy led by his father, tried to change it and preserve the state. He ruled the country from 1627 to 1658. His fate was also not smooth. He spent the last years of his life in a home imprisonment. He spent almost 8 years in the Jasmine Tower of Agra Red Fort. The main reason for the loss of freedom was the construction of the Taj Mahal. This is the main gate. Its height is 32 meters. At the top there are 22 domes. 11 of them is on this side. Others on the other hand. 22 domes mean the years of the construction of the Taj Mahal. It was built over 22 years, from 1631 to 1653. The works involved 20,000 people. All patterns on the gate are inlaid with precious stones and without the use of paints. They were brought from different regions of the world. The reign of Jan Shah is called the Golden Age, and he called himself the Lord of the World. The architectural art in India received a special development during his reign. A prime example is the Taj Mahal, which is called the crown of architectural art. The fifth ruler of the Mughal Empire, Jan Shah, dedicated this beautiful building to his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal. He lived with her for 19 years. She died during childbirth of their 14th child. Her real name was Arjumanat Banu Begum. In 1612, when Mumtaz Mahal first came as a daughter-in-law to the family of Mughal rulers, she was awarded the title Decoration of the Palace. Jan Shah loved her more than anyone, that is, more than the previous two wives. The symbol of his love for a wife is the Taj Mahal, which still amazes people with its beauty. The mausoleum is surrounded by 16 no less beautiful gardens and 53 amazing with its grandeur fountains. Minarets are tilted. If you look, on the other hand, they are perfectly aligned, and yet they are slightly tilted out. This is done so that in the event of an earthquake, these towers would fall out and not damage the main building of the Taj Mahal. Already, at that time, such moments were taken into account and predicted during construction. The Taj Mahal is the same on all sides. However, at different times of the day it looks different. In the early morning, it is filled with the scarlet color of the dawn, and in the afternoon it becomes blindingly white. At night, in light of the moon, the mausoleum becomes the color of silver. This is the effect of gems used in construction. They were brought to Agra by elephants. The caravan with decorations for the palace covered more than 300 kilometers. Interior of the Taj Mahal surprises even more. All patterns and ornaments on the walls are decorated with natural stones of various colors without using paint. Depending on the angle of light, they change their colors. The largest diamond stone in the world, Koh-i-Noor, was also here. Later, it was taken by the British. Now it is stored in London. Another point that deserves attention is the main dome of the Taj Mahal, which is made of pure gold weighing 600 kilograms. However, the current dome is made of brass. The original was also taken away by the British. This is a masterpiece of world architecture. A great contribution to the construction was also made by the Kipchak Turks, who came from Central Asia. They made these patterns ornament. They did not use equipment. Everything was done manually. The project of the Taj Mahal was made by Turk Ustad Ahmad Lahori, and the emperor personally was involved in the construction. He could make patterns. There are several of his works. From the southwest side of the Taj Mahal, there is a red mosque designed for 500 people. On the Eid al-Adha holiday, about 4,000 religious people gather here. The mosque is open only on Fridays. At this time, the Taj Mahal itself closes. On the other side of the mausoleum, there is a similar building. It was built to maintain symmetry. There was a possibility of the appearance of similar building as Taj Mahal. Jahan Shah planned to build a similar structure on the other bank of the river. However, the color was supposed to be black, since he considered himself the shadow of his wife. And he wanted to connect two mausoleums with the help of a bridge. Unfortunately, his idea was not realized. Son of Jahan Shah, Alimgir, buried his father near his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal.
Это для жены он построил из белого мрамора. И он хотел построить еще такое же огромное здание, но только с черного мрамора.
Jahan Shah dedicated the Taj Mahal to his wife and built it from the white marble. He also planned to build similar mausoleum for himself, but from black marble. He even designated a place for this on the other side of the river. But he failed to carry out his plans because his own son imprisoned his father. This was due to the waste of the treasury to build the Taj Mahal. It was also likely that a lot of money would also be spent on building the second Taj Mahal. Therefore, the father was taken under house arrest. So in captivity, Jahan Shah spent 8 years. All this time, he watched his brainchild from the window and remembered his beloved wife. Now there is a garden at the place that was intended for the construction of the second Taj Mahal. In the evening, a huge number of people come here. At this time, the shadow of the mausoleum falls on the other side of the river, and a second one appears, the Black Taj Mahal. Today, there are descendants of the architects and builders who left such an architectural masterpiece as a legacy to humanity. They continue the work of their ancestors and keep the secrets of processing marble and decorating its ornaments and patterns. The most interesting thing is that they pass their skills only on inheritance to relatives. They did not even dedicate their wives to the craft, as they were afraid to lose their jobs if there were an increase in the number of craftsmen. The architecture, which originated in the period of the Delhi Sultanate, led by the Kipchak sultans, reached its highest development during the Mughal Empire. After Jahan Shah, the subsequent rulers continued the best construction traditions. The Mughal Empire in India lasted until 1857. Specialists were called to the Mughal Empire from different countries. Among them were many of our ancestors. This is indicated by Indian historians. During the Mughal Empire, the Kazakh clans, which are better known as Turks, went to India to establish connections. Already in the 16th, 18th centuries, there was strong trade relations between the Kazakhs and Indians. Various household items and products were supplied from India to the territory of the Great Steppe. The Indians were supplied with horses and weapons. Kazakh horses were highly valued in Indian markets. According to scientists, more than 40,000 horses were sold to Indians in 2 centuries. Another evidence of the successful development of multifaceted relations is the work of Muhammad Haidar Dulat in Kashmir. We will tell you about it in the next episode.